Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. I'm Camilla. Today I'm going to be talking about something that is very close currently. I recently just got officially diagnosed with endometriosis, so I'm going to be talking kind of about my story and just explaining everything. Endometriosis is something that not a lot of people know about it, not a lot of people know what it is. It's so common and so more common than you think. A lot of people my age currently start experiencing symptoms or symptoms start to progress, and it's kind of hard when many people my age don't have a gynecologist and they're not able to find out what's actually wrong with them. But it's something that affects a lot of people, not just people my age. A lot of people that really start having a lot of symptoms, and one of the major symptoms, they're well into their 30s, and that is infertility. That's when a lot of people start to find out that they have this, and they start to find themselves in an infertility clinic, which is really, really unfortunate. Currently, endometriosis affects 1 in 10 women, and that is 10%. 10% of the women population have endometriosis. Definitely something that is really hard to diagnose, and it's not like a code that you go to the doctor and immediately they can find like an ear infection and give you antibiotics or strep throat. Like it's not like that. It's way more complex, and just diagnosing endometriosis requires surgery. So that right there is huge. I've heard, trust me, I've heard from people that I do a lot of hand gestures whenever I talk. I am trying to get better with that. I don't know if that's something that annoys people in my videos. Let me know down below. I would love to know. I have had symptoms of endometriosis basically when I started my period. Basically when I first had my period, I was already experiencing endometriosis symptoms without knowing that it was actually endometriosis. Let me explain real quickly what endometriosis is in the more scientific definition of it, and then go into some of the symptoms that people face. Endometriosis is an often painful disorder in which tissue that normally lines the inside of your uterus, the endometrium, grows outside of your uterus. Endometriosis most commonly involves the ovaries, fallopian tubes, and tissue lining of your pelvis. Rarely, endometrial tissue may spread beyond pelvic organs. With endometriosis, displayed endometrial tissue continues to act as it normally would. It thickens, breaks down, and bleeds with each menstrual cycle. Because of this displayed tissue, there is no way to exit the body, and it becomes trapped. When endometriosis involves the ovary cysts called don't know how to pronounce that word, may form. Surrounding tissue can become irritated, eventually developing scar tissue and adhesions. Abnormal bands of fibrous tissues can cause pelvic tissues and organs to stick to each other. Endometriosis can cause pain, sometimes severe, especially during your period. Fertility problems also may develop. Fortunately, effective treatments are available. Okay, so that's like the whole Mayo Clinic explanation of endometriosis. Basically, whenever you have your period, you basically have an unfertilized egg, and then that whole lining just sheds, and then that's your period right there. So when you have endometriosis, that lining can get outside, so you're basically having your period outside as well, if that makes sense. So that lining is outside, and then you're having your period, and then that lining really wants to come out, but it can't because it's on the outside, not the inside. There's no exit out, so that causes a lot of pain, especially when you're on your period, which that pain a lot of times is referred to as, you know, your cramps. And there's a big difference between your normal cramps and not normal cramps, and this is something that I didn't even realize until I really started looking into endometriosis and people that have endometriosis and some of the common connections that people have. Normal cramps, you take an Advil, ibuprofen, Tylenol, whatever helps you. You take that over-the-counter medicine, and you're fine. You're able to go to work, to school, go run your errands. You're able to do everything normal. When you have cramps that aren't so normal, you can often take that over-the-counter medicine, Advil, ibuprofen, whatever, and it doesn't help. Typically, the medicine that you take for cramps is NSAIDs. So this ranges between ibuprofen, Motrin, Advil, all of those. Tylenol, Antomorphine, generally people don't take because it doesn't help. When you have endometriosis or not so normal cramps, you take medication and it still hurts. You're still in pain. You're still unable to concentrate. You often miss out of school and work, and that's not normal when you have cramps unless there is something deeper, basically. Before I started treatment for endometriosis, because technically I've been doing treatment, the treatment is pretty much like hormonal therapy. So before I was doing treatment without actually being fully diagnosed, which is totally possible, totally normal. Before I actually fully started it, I was in middle school. Whenever I would be on my period, I would have massive cramps. If I went to school, and this is like an if, because most of the time when I had my period, it was like a whole week off of school, and it wasn't a vacation because I was in so much pain, and I was often going to the emergency room, like at least every time I got my period, because I would be in pain, I would be crying. And it's not funny, but I just don't know how to say it without, like, because something was clearly wrong, and yeah, and no one knew. No one knew. I would be in class, I would cry because I was in so much pain. I would go to the nurse, I would stay there for like, I would say at least like a half an hour just with a hot pack and taking medicine. And which brings me to my next point. I'm allergic to NSAIDs. So I can't take Advil, ibuprofen. I can only take Antomorphine, Tylenol. So that makes my life way more difficult, because if it's not Tylenol, it's a necrotic like oxycodone or one of those down the lines, and those are not good for you. Opioids in general are not good for you. We already have a huge crisis, a huge opioid crisis in the United States, so doctors don't want to give that immediately to you. School, I was looking in my planner that I used to have in 8th grade, and I would mark like every day that I was absent, and I think there was one in the month of May or June, something like that. Towards the end, I was out of school for, I think it was like 14 days. Like, I was counting it, and yeah, so that's obviously not good. There's only so much that your primary care can do for you, or your pediatrician, or whatever. Immediately, I had to go see a GYN, a gynecologist, and immediately it wasn't even like a question. I had to start hormonal therapy, and then when she thought that it could be a possibility that I had endometriosis, she sent me to go see the chief of gynecology at my hospital, and he's also like the specialist of PCOS, endometriosis, and all those other. Endometriosis is a chronic disease, so like it's not going away anytime soon, unfortunately. I went to see him 2 years ago, and by the time I saw him, I had already been going through treatment and taking medication, and everything was working out fine with the medication that I was on, basically, when I went to see him. So he didn't think that there was going to be a need to do surgery right then and there, but if it got worse, that I should come back and see him. And basically, up until that point, like middle school, all the pain that I was having was on my period, and some of the symptoms of endometriosis is nausea, vomiting, pain on your period, pain even off your period, pelvic pain. I think the studies have shown that 70% of females that have really bad pelvic pain on their periods come out to have endometriosis, 70%. So that right there is a huge number. Pretty much for like 2 years under that medication, I was good. Like, I was not having pain, and symptoms of endometriosis just weren't there, pretty much. But then this year was when I started getting pain. I would say, I think it was like end of May. And yeah, early May. That's when I started getting pain off of my period. Medicine that I take doesn't make me have a lining, or it doesn't make me have a lining, so no lining, no period. So I don't get my periods like other people do, but I was having pain off of my period, and that's a red flag. So I had appendicitis in February, and I got that surgically removed laparoscopically. Luckily it didn't burst. Pretty close to bursting though, but it didn't burst. So like I was saying, I had appendicitis in February, and with that happening, it literally took me 4 days with appendicitis to go to the emergency room, you guys. And there was a surgeon in the ER that even told me that normally when people get like one of the first symptoms of pain with appendicitis, they go straight to the emergency room because they just can't handle it. And I just remember like that the appendicitis pain felt exactly like the pain of my period. Like exactly like it, like just in a different area, of course, not in the lower right side, in a different, obviously, your pelvic region, but exactly like it. Like if you've had appendicitis, that's like my pain during my period. So appendicitis is extremely common. Like it's really hard for you to almost find somebody that doesn't know what it is, because it's so common, and obviously you have to get treatment like right away or else it could rupture, and then that's like a major surgery. But luckily mine didn't burst, so it was like a very minimally invasive surgery. Recovery for that, for me at least, was pretty long. But once I had experienced the pain of appendicitis and I started to compare my cramps to the pain of appendicitis in a different spot, that's when I would say that like doctors got a little worried, because your cramps aren't supposed to be as intense as appendicitis. Like that's not normal. I kid you not. My pain was very similar. I went to the ER, and then the nearest appointment to see my gynecologist was going to be in like 3 or 4 months. Super busy lady, I tell you. So then they had to send like in a like urgent request or referral, whatever, to make up a spot. And then I think they even couldn't get a spot with her, so they just went straight to the chief of gynecology, which was able to make up a spot to see me in. And then once I saw him in, literally the next day after I went to the ER, and I stayed at the ER overnight, and then once I saw him, he said that he would need to like do the surgery to see if I had endometriosis, because obviously the possibility of me having endometriosis was there. I was having a lot of pain, a lot of symptoms associated with endometriosis. Just pretty much the pain. And the average person gets diagnosed with endometriosis in 10 years, or the average time to get diagnosed with endometriosis is 10 years. So I got diagnosed with endometriosis in 4 years. Still kind of a long time, but I had surgery mid-June, and I wanted to wait until now to talk about this video because right after I woke up of surgery, I kind of forced myself to wake up too, because I saw the nurses all around me, and I just immediately asked them, do I have endometriosis? It was kind of something for me that I kind of always knew that I could have, and reading other people's stories or hearing other people talk about endometriosis, it was literally like just watching someone else talk about yourself, if that makes any sense. And endometriosis is so different for everybody, but most people experience two things in common, and that's either pain or infertility. Yeah, I experienced the pain. There's not a lot of people on YouTube my age, I'm 16, that have been diagnosed with endometriosis and that talk about it. The only major other person that I could find was this other girl. There's not a lot of people. So basically, like I was saying, I asked the nurses right away if I had it. They said yes. And then I asked them, where is it? That's like another major thing that I wanted to know, because depending where your endometriosis is, it causes different symptoms. They weren't able to tell me for some reason. I don't know why, but they said, you know, you'll find out in your follow-up appointment, in your post-op appointment, in like 3 weeks or something like that. So I had to wait for that, and once I finally went to that, I was able to ask where was the endometriosis, and then he told me, he was able to tell me that it was on both sides of the pelvis, near the rectum and near the bladder. There is ablation, but there's one that they cut it off, and then there's another one that they use like laser to burn it off. The one that they used on me was laser to burn it off, and that's where they found it. My surgery was like an hour long. That was that. Recovery so quick. Had it on a Wednesday, out of school Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I was able to return on Monday, like through that week, and then the week after that I had finals. Getting hot here. Whenever I film, I can't have the AC on, so it gets super hot towards the end of me filming. But anyways, I'm gonna try to wrap this up quickly. When you have the surgery for endometriosis, there are different stages. Stages 1, not a lot endometriosis, and stages 4, a lot of endometriosis. Endometriosis, when it causes infertility, is because the endometriosis sticks to your fallopian tubes or your ovaries, and they kind of like stick them together. So it's kind of like your tubes were tied, but they were pretty much glued on. When people can't get pregnant because of endometriosis, that is most likely what has happened to them. I was diagnosed with endometriosis stage 1 because studies have not shown a lot. We do not know why there are some people out there with stage 4 endometriosis with almost no pain, no symptoms, with a lot of endometriosis, and people with stage 1, a lot of pain, a lot of symptoms, and barely any endometriosis. So that is something that future research is going to have to show. But right now, endometriosis really does differ from one person to another. We do not know what causes endometriosis. We do not know how endometriosis gets outside of the uterus. We do not know why those stages differs. What we do know is that you have a higher chance of having endometriosis if you have someone in your family. I do not. But I know a lot of people in my family that have a lot of pelvic pain, and I think that even some of them are going to be getting checked. Pretty much that is that. I think I pretty much covered all the bases that I wanted to talk about. If you know someone that has endometriosis, try to be sincere, I guess I could say. Like I said, I just made this video for awareness, so you can know about it, and also just kind of sharing my story in case you also do have endometriosis. I don't know if you guys watch the YouTube channel Clever TV, but they do like a bunch of like funny little like videos of them trying out different things and going to different places. And one of the, I believe, producers, Erin, she had fibroids, and during her surgery minimized those fibroids. She also found out that she had endometriosis, and on one of the videos that she did with her husband, on it was pretty much like a reality TV show series. I find it really interesting. Fibroids is another thing that is highly common among women. I think like 70% or something like that. I do not have those, but highly common. And when she was doing a video with her husband, I commented on one of the videos and asked if there was anyone else that had endometriosis, PCOS, or something like that. And I said that I was 16. I don't remember the exact comment, but I will like insert a screenshot thing here. And there was an overwhelmingly surprise of people that said, I'm 17, I just got diagnosed with endometriosis. And clearly this is like not uncommon for someone my age to have. It is just uncommon for people my age to get diagnosed, which is really sad, because the sooner you have treatments, the pretty much the biggest chance you have of not having fertility issues. The sooner you get diagnosed, the better. The sooner you start treatment, the better for your pain, for you, for your fertility later on in life. I have been told by my doctor that he doesn't think that I'm gonna have issues later on in life, that I'll be completely fine once I get off treatment. Treatment is pretty much long term until I hit menopause, but yeah, that is pretty much it. That is pretty much it. If you have endometriosis, PCOS, fibroids, or any other thing along those lines, let me know down below. Let me know your story. When were you diagnosed? Let me know down below. Let me know your story. If you're comfortable with sharing, of course. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. That would really be appreciated. And I will see you in my next video. Thank you guys. Bye!